Do you ever like write about your own life in your books and kind of?
Not really. Occasionally. Really, in general, no. I think what happens is little things that happen to you kind of end up in your books, but it isn't really about yourself. Do you know what I mean? That you kind of certain little episodes that happen, say a joke somebody tells you, or something funny that happens to you in your family, or something. You know, they kind of end up in a book, but the book isn't actually so much about yourself and your own life. It's just that bits of your life do end up in your books naturally, because that's, you know, your material is yourself, really, isn't it? Always. So even though you have really the books I write are very much about the characters in the stories, and they are very different. They live very different lives from the way I live. But little bits of things that happen in my own life would kind of find their way into I can't think of an example now, of course. As soon as I start to say that, I can't think of an example. But it does happen, that little episodes get in there.
Which book did you most enjoy writing?
I wrote a book a very long time ago, one of my very first books, which was called The Leprechaun Who Wished He Wasn't. And that book, it was just a romp to write. I just sat at my computer and I giggled my way through it, and I wrote it very quickly. I really, really enjoyed writing it. I think if I was to write it today, I'd probably do it differently, but at the time, I was just enjoying myself so much, and I was laughing my head off while I was writing it. Now, some of my books are funny, most of them are serious, but even the serious ones sometimes have sort of funny bits in. But The Leprechaun Who Wished He Wasn't is it's just mad, you know. It's just a kind of funny book, and so it was great fun to write.
Do you do a mix of both types of kid books and grown-up books?
Yeah, well, no, mostly children's. I do mostly children's, but I have got a grown-up book coming out, I hope, later this year. I've written a grown-up book which came out maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and this is my second adult one, will be coming probably at the end of this year. So, I mean, writing is writing. People talk an awful lot about the difference between writing for children and writing for adults, and of course there are differences, but actually they're more like each other than they are different from each other, if you know what I mean. Writing for children is writing for readers. And children, you know, sometimes people talk about children as if they were a separate species. You know, children are just adults who haven't grown up yet, you know. So I don't see a huge, there are differences, but I don't see a huge difference. So for me, the process is much the same.
Did your teachers ever give out to you for daydreaming?
I don't remember that one. They gave out to me for a few things, but for not being very good at maths, they gave out to me. But I don't remember them giving out to me for daydreaming, no. I probably was very good at disguising it. I probably put on a very serious and interested looking face when I was doing my daydreaming, and so I was probably quite a good actress in class. That's probably how I got away with it. Did your teachers give out to you for daydreaming?
No.
No? Do you daydream?
No.
You don't daydream? How do you live? Wow, that's interesting. The girl who didn't daydream. Now that might be a story.
Did you have any pets when you were younger?
Yeah. We had the most delightful dog that ever lived. And he was just so gorgeous. And then he disappeared. That's what happens to pets. Unfortunately, he was beautiful. He was a Labrador, a black one with a white bib down. And when my sister was a baby, he used to lie under her pram and look after her, and he was just so gorgeous. His name was Glenn, and he had these really soft, silky ears. Oh, he was lovely. And then we moved, and we weren't able to have a dog in the place we moved to because it was too small, so that was the end of that. But,
Who's your favourite author?
Of all time, ever?
Yep. Jane
Austen. Bit predictable, but she's so wonderful. And my favourite book of hers is Emma. I think Emma is just fantastic. I really read it every now and again. So you're probably a little bit young for Jane Austen, are you? Some of you starting to read Jane Austen? Yeah? But you'll really enjoy her when you get to her. She's great.
Would you put much illustrations in your book?
No, I don't. Most of my books are written for older readers. Some of them are for younger, but most of them are for around 10 up. And at that stage, publishers tend not to put illustrations in books because they're expensive. So they tend to just have text. So they don't usually have illustrations in them. except for the cover. The cover would have some kind of illustration on it. But generally speaking, once you get to kind of 9, 10-year-olds, they're 10, and it's a pity really, because I remember I was talking to you earlier about A Little Princess, which is one of my very favourite books when I was a child. And one of the things I really remember about it were the black and white drawings that were in that book when I was a child. And it's kind of they're very strong still in my memory. And I think it's a pity we don't have more illustrations in books for older readers, but we just don't. That's just the way things have gone. So The Henny Penny Tree, which was my last book in English, which came out from O'Brien Press a couple of years ago, was for younger readers, and they had little kind of cartoony illustrations in them, all right. But I'm not myself an illustrator. I can't draw. I'm absolutely useless at drawing. It's like I can't do maths. I can't draw. So it would really be the publisher who'd find the illustrator. That's the way it works. The publisher, you write the book, you give the story to the publisher, and then it's their job then to kind of make it into a book. And one of the things about doing that, one of the things the publisher does then is find an illustrator if they're going to use illustrations, and then the illustrator makes the drawings, and then they have to, it's also the publisher's job to make the cover and all that kind of thing, and then to sell the book. So the author's part of the book is really only about the words, usually. Unless some authors are also illustrators, but usually that's the way it works. Yeah?
What are you going to do with your medal?
I didn't actually realise I was going to get to keep this. I thought this was a medal that was going to be kind of passed along from Laureate to Laureate, so I've only just discovered that I got to keep it, so I haven't decided yet. But Mag's told me that I can give it back to her every now and again. She'll polish it up for me. Can you believe it? Imagine having a person to polish your medal. Isn't that just a wonderful idea? A medal polisher. Wouldn't that be a great job to have? I'm a medal polisher.
What type of school did you go to?
Again, I went to lots of schools because I moved around. Well, when I was young, schools were rather dull places. They weren't as interesting at all as schools are today, and they were kind of a bit dreary and a bit scary, and they smacked you. There were nuns, yeah, and they smacked you if you didn't know your lessons. So you learned your lessons. Nah, I don't like to remember that too much, I have to say.
Would you write the blurbs for your book?
Sometimes they ask me to do the blurb, and then they say, this is rubbish, and they redo it. And what always amuses me is that the first thing that a reader does is read the blurb, isn't it? The first thing you do when you pick up a book, you turn it over. If you like the cover, you turn it over and you read the blurb. And it's the only thing the author hasn't written. It's the first thing that the reader, and they make their decision about the book based on this blurb that you didn't write. I think it's hilarious. But anyway, that's what happens. Usually, they would maybe ask me for a blurb, and I might give them a blurb, and then they would probably keep 2 sentences out of my blurb, and then they'll rewrite all around it. So, yes and no is the answer.
Do you like it if your books, any of them, were turned into movies?
What do you think? You know, when people ask me this question, sometimes people say, would you like your book to be turned into a movie? And I say, yes. Do you know a producer? Are you going to introduce me? And then I realise, no, they're just asking me the question. They're not really making me an offer. So I've learned now that you're not really going to make me an offer, are you? You don't really know a filmmaker, do you? You're just asking me in a general kind of way, aren't you? Yeah, sadly. No, I would love it. Of course I would. It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Which book would you choose to be?
I think the one that would work best would be Amelia. Do you know Amelia? Anybody read Amelia? Yeah. I think Amelia would work really nicely as maybe a TV film or something like that. I could just see it working like that.
2, 3.
But not right now! Thank you all so much for your very intelligent questions. It was lovely talking to you.